Hey, all my Capricorn friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your July 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Capricorn, I'm referring to Capricorn rising as dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Capricorn moon or Capricorn suns. And if you have 3 or more planets in the sign of Capricorn, this video is also for you. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. The month starts off with an opposition between Mercury in your 7th house and Pluto in your 2nd house. And this is something that we felt it started at the end of June, and we'll feel it for the next week or so, few days. This very much feels as if there is a push-pull between how you perceive. I want to offer it this way. When I look at Cancer 7th house, I'm not necessarily thinking it's very emotional, but I do think that there's a certain amount of security and comfort and nurturing in that 7th house that is coming into conflict with maybe potentially some of the changes that you have been experiencing as Pluto has been going through your 1st house. Pluto is going to retrograde into your 1st house in no short order and go over those last 3 degrees before it retrogrades back into your 2nd house for the next 20 years till 2044. So this opposition to me could be a conflict between, how you're perceived in your professional relationships, how you're perceived, how your mind potentially is perceived, how your thought process is received and perceived in your 7th house relationships. The 7th house, while it intimates marriage, it's also professional contractual relationships. It's also where we see harmony, peace, fairness, justice. It's where lawyers reside and where policemen reside and where civil servants reside. And here, this is a house of patriotism. This is a house of home and hearth and property. So there could be a bit of a push-pull going on there. I don't know, maybe you're purchasing some property and you're having challenges with that. But what I also want to point out is when I opened up the chart and I started looking, I couldn't escape all the ones in the chart with the degrees. Mercury is currently at 28 degrees, which reduces down to a 10. The sun is at 10 degrees. The nodes are at 11 degrees. Neptune is at 29 degrees and has been here for quite some time and is stationing to go retrograde. So it's going to be at 29 degrees for quite some time, and that reduces down to an 11. We see Saturn is at 19 degrees. Saturn has been at 19 degrees and will be, I think, in its entirety, 6 weeks before it moves a degree, and that will be retrograde. And then we have Pluto at 1 degree. This is all inferring the master number of thought. And you cannot master your thoughts, but you can master the ebb and the flow of the mechanism that is the mind that harbors the thoughts. The mind is a muscle, and much of it runs on its own. So the consciousness of us, with our intention and our awareness, is what dictates us having control over our mind. And here, Pluto represents deep psychological patterns, places where fear and control reside, where Pluto rules criminal behavior, and criminals are great at knowing how to manipulate other people to get what they want. I mean, that's just one level. We don't need to go into all the levels of being a criminal. But on the flip side of it, Pluto knows the landscape of something and knows how to follow his heart and trust his gut. And in doing that, it's very transformational, and it makes the focus much different, where the manipulation of others is not how to gain power and control, but to be able to manipulate the laws of the universe through our mind and our intentions and our awareness. And if we have a dip or we have a challenge, being able to reframe it in such a way that it serves us rather than pulling us under. So this is how the month starts. Now, as the month progresses, this opposition is going to get tighter. Then we're going to see Venus getting into an opposition, and then the sun. So there's going to be an increasing push-pull to bring an awareness of how you've been thinking, how you've been feeling dutiful, responsible, where you're putting your energy, what you are building. Your ruling planet retrograde in the house of the divine is offering an opportunity to really root in a spiritual practice. Pisces is your third house, and it's offering you an opportunity to integrate those spiritual practices in your everyday life and everyday communications. We're layering the Gemini energy over the Piscean energy right now. And then we see Saturn at 19 degrees, the Libra degree of peace and harmony, and at that 10 degree of awareness of our thoughts. Now let's go to the second, where we'll see Neptune start retrograding. And and we see Mercury's at 0 degrees, and Mercury is making a great aspect to Neptune. But one of the things I think that is also super powerful is Pluto is making a sextile to Neptune. It's making a trine up here to Uranus, and Neptune is making a sextile to Uranus. These three planets are playing like the soundtrack of like if you go into an office building sometimes or into the market, they have music over the loudspeaker. This is what's happening with these planets. There's a constant pull to dig deep into what has power and control and creates fear, to transform that through the power of your spiritual practices, knowing that the divine laws of the universe are as powerful as gravity. I mean, that's a divine law of the universe, and we can see that. But many of the divine laws are things we cannot see with the human eye. We don't have the capabilities. And now we move this sextile into the future. Now, it's not lost on me that when I'm doing this, the moon is at 1 degree. The ones are just killing me. Now, I know the moon's going to move quickly, but it's just, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it is an absolute message from the universe. Venus is at 19 degrees now on the 2nd. The sun is at 11 degrees. And while the sun is squaring the nodes, this is again projecting a potential new way of viewing things, versus Libra is your 10th house, the house that's most public for you. And this would be an opportunity to, I think, release old habits of either, Saturn is exalted. Your ruling planet is exalted in Libra, and yet the two houses square each other. So there's a feeling of being able to be intellectual and emotional at the same time. And through your spiritual practices, you can find balance there. Because from Spirit's point of view, when things happen that we deem tragic or negative or interruptive, there's a bigger picture to be seen. And so there's less emotional up and down with it. So here, I think there's a potential for you to experience more balance over this month's time, not just this day. Let's go to the 5th, where we will have a new moon in Cancer. This is at 3:57 p.m. Pacific time, and it's sandwiched between 2 Capricorn full moons, your full moons. And I think this is so significant. Again, Cancer is your 7th house of partnerships, and this is planting the seeds for feeling more an emotional connection, feeling a sense of nurturing, a sense of safety, a sense of tradition and home and heart that Capricorn likes, but with less duty, responsibility, and obligation attached to it. The full moon in Capricorn at the end of June was at 1 degree. Are you hearing me, Capricorn? That was that first degree is yes, it is the degree of Aries, but there's another one of my ones. And you'll see at the full moon of Capricorn at the end of the month, we will revisit the ones once again. No pun intended. And during this new moon, Mars is at 19 degrees. And Mars is starting its conjunction with Uranus. And this is very powerful because this is your fifth house of romance, of pleasure, fun, of frivolity, of entertainment, of laughter. So there's a feeling of opportunity to feel liberation in some way, to recognize where there may be old habits and feelings that no longer really apply, you know? For some reason, as I've been going through this month, I keep feeling like we're all getting triggered into old habits that our parents used to say, like money doesn't grow on trees and, the world's not fair. And that's this opposition right here from Mercury to Pluto. And then this seems to be almost exasperated in a good way. Like if the tension makes me liberate myself, I don't need to go by those rules anymore. I don't want to go by those rules. Those aren't applicable to me anymore. I want more from my life. I want to feel more ease, more joy, more pleasure. And sometimes that happens because when we age, we just get sick and tired of an old story. And I can't help but feel like this trine and then these sextiles to these outer planets, again, Pluto sextiling Neptune, Neptune sextiling Uranus for years to come. Pluto will sextile Neptune for a decade, and then Neptune will sextile Uranus, and Pluto will trine it for like 4 or 5 years as they change signs. So this is really powerful for the landscape of where we're moving. And it's up to us to get our mind, our individuality and our communication in alignment with what's being offered to us. That's going to be the seeds you get to plant in this new moon. All right, let's go back to 12 o'clock. And we're going to move to the 11th, where Venus moves into Leo. And she's been for a day or so, 2 days, maybe 3, feeling this opposition again, and it could be, some outside forces are making you really look at your own value, what you find meaningful in your life, how other people have power and control over you through their resources. Venus rules money, it rules partnership, it rules connection, and it's going into your 8th house. This is a house, again, that's layered with fun and entertainment because it's Leo's naturally the 5th house, but it's also a house where we have to be courageous with our heart, and Leo rules the heart and the spine. So there's courage in following one's heart. And Capricorn, that has not been easy for you because you rule practicality and building on the earth, not in some lofty place in the clouds. But Pluto's been breaking up, saying, you know what, those clouds aren't as lofty as you think they are, because when your mind is focused on what brings joy to you, the universe will bring you more experiences for joy. So this is just like ridiculously powerful, and being even slightly aware of these opportunities can really take those hard spots and make them, make those black spots, make the color pop. You're like, wow, normally I would have done this in this situation, and this time I did something different and it felt so good. We see a growing conjunction between Mars and Uranus, and this is a polarizing dynamic. Literally, like some people are going to have epiphanies and be brave, and other people are going to lose their mind and just explosive anger and unforgiveness. So again, this awareness is so pivotal to how you experience these planets' energies. We see Jupiter there, it's at 10 degrees. The sun is at 19 degrees. There's my ones again. The nodes have moved to 10 degrees. There's another one for you. It just blows my mind. Okay, let's go on to the 15th, where we're going to see the exact conjunction between Mars and Uranus. And this is in an exact trine. No, not an exact trine, but it's in a trine to Pluto. And I just feel like this is where I think the rubber meets the road, in the sense of being aware of some history, some habitual way of processing something or feeling, or even potentially with Pluto's influence being in opposition to Venus and the sun, it could be that other people have a habitual way of expecting you to behave or to act, and you could even get frustrated that you're trying to demonstrate some new intention, some new version of you, the 2.0, and other people are not necessarily responding as visibly as you'd like them to be. And there could be challenges with that. But at the same time, you could also turn it around and say, you know what, this is about me seeing me. Mars is all about the self. And this is about you revolutionizing yourself in what brings you joy, what lets you express yourself authentically. The fifth house rules the comic. There's laughter, there's playtime, there's games, there's children, there's new romance, when romance is young and innocent and it doesn't know heartache yet. So this is this month is just riddled with, I think, challenges to see how my mind works and how my mind processes and how I sometimes default to a certain version of things. All right, let's go on to the 20th, where Mars will enter Gemini. And this is a very significant transit because Mars was in Gemini last 2 years ago for 7 months, where Mars was just banging around in the house of communication and learning, how to be inspiring instead of just lobbing off people's heads. And on this day, we see an exact trine between Pluto and Mars. These two guys are, they're literally like collaborators in crime, but they also have an ability to be the most heroic, brave energies that transform into riches, literally. And this is Mars's opportunity to demonstrate an awareness and a liberation from old habits and old ways of thinking and old ways that don't serve. We don't want to throw everything out. We just want to throw the things out that limit us or restrict us or keep us tethered to something that doesn't feel fulfilling. And Capricorn can endure a lot of nonsense before, they have had enough. So I think this is a powerful day. Again, this feels more on the inside. I mean, we see the oppositions from Pluto. Those could represent outside influences, people, dynamics, but they feel very much processed on the inside, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Okay, so now here is this big, what I think is like, just blows my mind, is on the 21st. This second full moon in Capricorn is at 3:17 a.m. 3:17 reduces down to an 11. Can you believe it? And look, the moon and the sun are at 29 degrees in opposition, where literally the sun is reflecting itself on the moon, and the moon is becoming aware of how it's being seen in your house, in your sign, conjunct Pluto. And in favor to this aspect with Mars and Uranus. This could be amazingly liberating and in favor to Neptune's retrograde. So this reflection doesn't have to be erosive, doesn't have to feel as if things are moving backwards. It could be like these epiphanies of, oh my God, if I had not experienced that, I wouldn't feel this, or I wouldn't have healed that. Venus is at 11 degrees. There's another example of the ones just showing up over and over again. And this full moon really has beautiful aspects. Yes, there's a bit of a challenge between Mercury and Uranus in that exact square, but that's the liberated thought versus that everyday thought that tethers me and traps me on some way. And yet, Leo being your 8th house and Taurus being your 5th house, there's an opportunity to shift that thought through physical experimentation, meaning literally thinking and then behaving on that more authentic thought, following that, and then seeing that the experience could be much better than you perceived it would be. The square here is very mental because Uranus rules genius, and Mercury rules our everyday thoughts. So the square is sort of asking to surrender to an inner knowing, an inner genius, as a result of an epiphany that takes place during this second Capricorn moon. Really kind of like, I swear it feels like Capricorn is just getting universe from the love from the universe to help you get over the hump of the last degrees of Pluto's retrograde back into your house. And that hump would be the psychological dynamics that tether you to a small version of yourself, a dutiful version of yourself, a version of yourself that is not enjoying yourself. So I think this is, again, the word powerful just rolls off my tongue every 5 minutes in this month. All right. The next day, we'll go back to 12 o'clock. The sun will move into Leo and experience its opposition. It's already been feeling it during the full moon. So this is just sort of this pure opportunity with these zeros to really reflect in an authentic deep dive as to what do I want? How do I want to stand in leadership for myself? And how do I want to make this life's journey as powerful and as stand in leadership for myself as I can? Now, those thoughts may not come authentically because you're just pondering, life in general. They may come as a result of something happening that really irritates the living daylights out of you. And this feels further evidenced by Mercury's quincunx to Neptune. And then we still have the square up here to Mars and Uranus. Again, this is it's sort of like Capricorn, allowing yourself to have a natural knee-jerk reaction, but not acting on that reaction and giving yourself a minute or two to let it settle for a minute. And then in settling, you could transform something here through Chiron's favoritism, and I shouldn't say favoritism, favorable aspect to Mercury, transforming the wound into a gift. And this may be an awareness of an imprint from your upbringing. The fourth house has an integral effect on our second house because it shapes our confidence about our skills, about our voice. If we were mocked or whether we were supported, that all shapes us, and we carry it into our adulthood. And there's no way to get around it. It's the imprint, it's the pattern. Now on the 26th, we're going to see Mercury move into Virgo. This is your 9th house. And the 9th house, while often we talk about foreign travel, we talk about foreign people, foreign places, it also represents a philosophy, ideologies, seeking higher wisdom and knowledge through study. And there is a bit of a challenging dynamic in this entry of Mercury into Virgo because it makes a quincunx to both Neptune and Pluto. And the square is still in play between Uranus and Mars. This could inadvertently default to old habits. Everyday life takes over. It becomes important. The 9th house is a business house. It rules branding, marketing, publishing, business in general. And Virgo is a work house, our service to others. So I tend to think that something comes up that you have responsibility to, duty to, potentially work dynamic, and it kind of throws your whole awareness and your spirituality out the window because you got things to do and you're living in the 3D world, okay? I don't have time for this nonsense, but at the same time, this is where, the rubber meets the road, because if you experience another disruption due to these blind sides where the planets aren't speaking the same language, then this could shake you back into an awareness of the be, do, have. So Capricorn, the be is what is my belief, my attitude, and my disposition before I take my action. I say to people all the time that your ruling planet does not pick the lane with which we choose to endeavor, but it does require tenacity, endurance, and a bit of an emotional hard ass. When it gets rough, there's no quitting with Saturn. You got to keep moving on. So this could be a little bit of a challenge right now because you don't see that you're falling into bad habits or old habits, I shouldn't say bad habits, that are keeping you from receiving bounty, and instead you're trying too hard to make it happen or build it in some way. Okay. Oh, And I want to say this because this is further evidenced by the quincunx to Venus to Saturn. This could very well be about money, about how you're making money, how you're getting money. I don't have time for frivolous stuff. I don't have time for fun or vacations. And you know what? An overworked anything is not really productive. It's just a recipe for disaster. So really honoring your emotions at this time, recognizing that you need replenishment. Chiron is about a wound that gets transformation. There's this moon here that's making a nice aspect. So as you honor that, hopefully you won't fall into another sort of another place what puts you as a lesser priority. You know, I got to get this done before I can relax kind of energy. All right, let's go to the last day of the month. And here we see, I think, pretty much the same themes are going on that we've talked about. The planets have dispersed a bit. And now we see, I think that the most powerful thing at this time is really the month ends with a growing conjunction between Mars and Jupiter. And this is going to be, I think, could be potentially volatile. People be fighting for their beliefs. Where in the United States, we're in an election year, and it's a polarizing time in our politics here in the United States. So there could be a lot of hemming and hawing and hooing and wooing in the neighborhood, in the media, in what we're absorbing. And I would offer this. I would go on a media diet for a little bit if I find myself inflamed by the dynamics right now, because they're not going to be calming down much. They're going to actually get more inflamed. And I think that's further evidenced by this square and a half to Pluto, and even the square from Jupiter to Saturn. There's just a little something that has me concerned about people. You know, we could see people rallying and people speaking out in the neighborhood on behalf of their candidate, and that may inflame the other side. There's just a lot going on. So be mindful of that. If that's your bag and your thing that you like to do, you know, be the intentional one in the group. And if you're not into that, then stay home or stay away from it. I'm personally not into it, so I'll be staying home and staying away from it. All right, my Capricorns, that's it for July 2024. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below in the description, and I'll be back in August with your monthly. So please like, please subscribe, please share, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Bye-bye.